Wait, so you want me to baptize you with your pastor? Yeah, if that's all right. Can we do it together? Well, if your pastor's comfortable with that, I'd be honored to assist. That felt a little odd, but relationships in the past? They're usually full of surprises. And some of them, well, some of them take a strange turn you never saw coming. You see, the way it always is, people always say the greatest betrayals are not committed by enemies or strangers. They are committed by the ones you trusted most, the ones you let into your heart, your wallet, even your aspirations. And that's precisely what happened, right out in the open, in front of a crowd that just couldn't believe what it was seeing. Kody Brown, former patriarch of a sprawling plural family, walked into a parking lot scenario that resembled more the finale of a soap opera than actual life. His face burning red, his words stumbling as an increasing number of incensed family members hurled out one simple phrase, one that was a gut punch. Kody lied. Thanks for being here today. Don't forget to subscribe and leave your comments below because trust me, you're going to have a lot to say after this one. Now imagine this. Kody, the individual who had stood tall as the self-proclaimed spiritual guide, the glue that bound the Brown family together, is now alone. No Robin to keep the peace. No televised, stage-managed smiles from his erstwhile harmonious family. Just a deluge of pain and disillusion staring back at him. This wasn't just a private argument caught on camera. This was years of built-up frustration boiling over, every whispered concern, every sleepless night, every tear shed in silence, all bursting out into public view. At the heart of it all, a war between freedom and control. One, a desperate man fighting to keep power in his grasp. The other, women and children finally developing the courage to take back their lives. One truth at a time. This is not a story about one family disintegrating. It's about years of emotional control finally breaking through. It's about strength, about individuals finding out they deserved more and deciding to walk away, even when it hurt. On television, the Browns marketed us a nicely packaged fantasy, a beaming, large family navigating life with love, laughter, and religion. But if you paid attention, and many of us did, you could glimpse the red flags, the minuscule cracks in the foundation, the worn-out smiles that didn't quite find their way to the eyes. The television show depicted togetherness, but in the background, exhaustion, decades of silent anguish, mothers attempting to be strong for their kids while walls gradually shut in. And in the financial, Kody's empire was not constructed on solid foundation. Rather than investing in steady homes and secure futures for each wife and all the children, he appeared involved in a never-ending pursuit. Big houses, big moves, big dreams that depleted pockets and wore everyone down. Robin, naturally, was always the favorite, the legal wife, the chosen one. She got the lion's share of Kody's time, attention, and affection. But what the viewers didn't see, what never did make the show, was the price it exacted behind closed doors. Robin, frequently regarded as the favorite wife, was paying a price that no one really knew. She was losing sleep at night, plagued by unpaid bills and the increasing worry that resentment was growing among the other wives and children. She knew deep down the money was dwindling. Each new cost Kody demanded, another spending spree, another huge family endeavor, felt like a time bomb. You could spot it on her face if you really looked. The way she'd look away whenever money came up. The strained tone when she tried to discuss plans for the future. She had the weight of knowing things were falling apart, and that some of the fault lay squarely at her feet. And Aurora, sweet, faithful Aurora, She spent her childhood watching her mother give up everything for a dream that was inching its way toward nightmare. Kody's hopes for her were astronomical, and she tried her hardest to fulfill them. For years, she played the role, the obedient daughter, the believer in the family fantasy. But life means you begin to see things a little more clearly. Aurora started to pay attention to the small things, the snippy tone of voice with which her sisters spoke, the soft unhappiness in her mother's eyes, the fights that never aired. She started to ask herself difficult questions. Why did her mother always seem so tired? Why did it seem like her siblings were gradually moving away from her? And why did everything seem so contrived, so tenuous, as if it was on the verge of falling apart? These weren't just small family disagreements. These were the early signs of something bigger crumbling underneath the surface. That's when it hit her. This wasn't unity. It was control, wrapped in a neat little bow labeled family values. Those team dinners, the endless speeches about loyalty, the we're in this together mentality, it all started to feel like a cage, one she never asked to be locked inside. That moment of stillness within Aurora ignited something strong. It was the initial spark of defiance that would before long rage like a wildfire throughout the Brown home, scorched away all the lies Kody had spent years upholding. Aurora had always been the quiet one, the peacemaker, the girl who smiled through strained family gatherings and nodded obligingly during Kody's rambling speeches about family and loyalty. But the pressure had been simmering in her for years. She saw her mom shrink a little more each time Kody criticized her decisions. She saw her siblings one by one withdraw, too exhausted to keep arguing for attention in a household where love was too often conditional. And then one night, it all boiled over. Aurora didn't scream. She didn't stomp doors. She didn't need to. She stood before Kody, her voice shaking at first, but with increasing force with each sentence. And she spoke the truth. She informed him she was finished living a life constructed around his ego, finished pretending control was love. She was exhausted, exhausted from rules that strangled her, exhausted from always tiptoeing to make him happy. She said she wanted her own voice, her own decisions, her own destiny away from under his umbrella. There was a moment of stunned silence. Even Robin, her own mother, was taken aback. She couldn't believe what she was hearing from the daughter she had believed she knew so well. And after that, everything shifted. Kody was enraged. He paced back and forth throughout the house, cursing about betrayal and disrespect. He attempted to guilt Aurora into remaining behind, telling her all that the family had given up. But Aurora didn't flinch. That night, she started packing. The atmosphere in the house was charged. You could almost see the walls shuddering with emotion, years of silence finally bursting loose. The rest of the children stood as statues, wide-eyed in doubt, watching it all happen. Some of them struggled, wondering if they should stick with Kody or quietly support Aurora. Something was different, though. Her bravery had set a door ajar. For the first time ever, the others felt safe to recognize their own hurt, to release years of frustration and sorrow that had been pent up for far too long. And then there was Robin. She was trapped in her own emotional whirlwind. For years, she had given everything to win Kody's affection, her time, her freedom, her money, even pieces of herself. Watching Aurora escape that grasp hurt. It wasn't just surprising. It was a pain. But below all that terror, there was something else. Something Robin hadn't experienced in a very, very long time. Relief. In Aurora, she glimpsed something powerful. Freedom. Genuine, authentic freedom. The kind that she hadn't allowed herself to dream of in years. Robin had always gone out of her way to shield her daughter from the tumult, from the fissures in their carefully constructed family life. And now, here was Aurora standing up and defending herself. It hurt to see her daughter move away from the family framework Robin had gone to such great lengths to maintain, but it also ignited a tiny, undeniable flame in her. Aurora's fearless stance wasn't teen angst or rebellion. It was a wake-up call, a moment of truth that compelled everyone, including Robin, to confront the deceptions they'd been perpetuating themselves for years. That second, that very moment, was when Kody's scrupulously constructed tower of control finally came crashing down, irretrievably. For so long, Robin had held on to the fantasy. She believed in the vision of a large, merged family, the sisterhood, the Sunday lunches, the promise that love wasn't finite but could be divided and multiplied. She wanted it to be true so desperately that she ignored what was actually occurring all around her. But seeing Aurora stand up to Kody broke something wide open in her. She couldn't help but see it now. All that late-night discussion she had with Kody, she had believed they were talking about love, about shared decisions, about growing. But really, they were talking about obedience, loyalty, control. Robin started to realize the wall Kody had constructed around her life, brick by brick, as camaraderie. She had given up her voice, her decisions, her privacy, all for a man who only flourished when he was the puppeteer. The reality didn't just end with feelings, it marched straight into their bank account. Robin began to understand how far she'd sunk into financial crisis. That vision of a secure and contented home had become a daily battle to merely survive. The debt was crushing. There were loans that nobody spoke of, hidden credit cards. That property that was to be their grand family homestead? It had turned into more of a weight than a blessing. Piece by piece, the idyllic life fell apart. In order to maintain the illusion, Robin started selling off her own belongings, sentimental jewelry, family heirlooms, even favorite clothes. She kept telling herself it was just a temporary measure, that it was all for the better. But in her heart of hearts, she knew otherwise. She was holding on to an illusion that no longer belonged to her. And then, in a raw, exposed moment backstage, Robin spoke with the producers. Her voice was soft, borderline defeated. For a rare and profoundly emotional interview with producers, Robin finally spoke the truth. She acknowledged that the illusion of big, happy family, the one that they had worked so hard to create for the world, was gone. Perhaps it had never existed. The financial hardship, she told me, was far more dire than anyone knew. Kody's promises of stability and prosperity? Just promises. False ones. Robin talked through tears, describing how she'd lost touch with her sister's wives. The close relationships had dissipated into silence. There were no more sentimental dinners, no more laughter shared. Only stiff dinners that seemed scripted, and forced smiles plastered on like masks. She had spent sleepless nights paying past due bills, trying to keep things afloat while Kody continued to spend as if the rules didn't apply to him. He lived like he was better than the daily struggles that the rest of the family couldn't avoid. And Robin? She confessed to something that shattered countless hearts. She'd become his ultimate enabler, the final person between Kody and reality. By protecting him from reality, she'd lost her own integrity, her sanity, and, along the way, herself. The instant Aurora stepped out, that act of courage, that bold move, it was like standing in front of a mirror. Robin saw, in one heart-wrenching moment, that she had been living for someone else's ego, not for her own joy, not for the happiness of her children. That admission didn't sound like a wife covering for her husband anymore. It sounded like a woman waking up from a bad, long dream. A woman becoming aware that she didn't even know the woman that she had turned into. She once thought love was real, in unity, in family. But it had been eroded down to survival. What she posted on camera that day wasn't vulnerability. It was the start of something else. The start of reclaiming a life devoured by someone else's fantasy. And then, Kody. For years, he believed he was the hub of it all, the glue, the leader, the voice everyone listened to. He believed that his charm and long speeches could keep the entire house of cards intact. But the day of the community forum, all changed. He got up in front of a full room of people, ready to begin another one of his self-assured monologues.